Welcome to School's Out 80's Comedy Story Time. Hey everybody, welcome to School's Out 80's Comedy Story Time. I got a really special guest to us today, coming to us all the way from Houston, Texas. Danny Galvez, say hello to everybody. It's School's Out 80's.
Yeah, I'm here. Here I am. Thank you for having me on today, John. I sure do appreciate it. So, I love the title of your show, by the way.
Oh, cool.
I used to love the after school specials. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
It's like, don't do drugs, kids. And it was always like some sad story. My parents used to terrify us with that and be like, see what happens if you do drugs? That's what's going to happen. And it was always.
I know, Danny. I mean, so do you remember the campaign that came out on This Is You on Drugs and They Crack an Egg? Do you remember that?
Yes. 1,000,000%. The only thing is they should have scrambled the egg inside of the video because like after, 20, 30 years being out of high school, you're like, you know what? They could have gone a little bit deeper with that because that's not even close to what people's brains are like on drugs anymore. If you
I know, man.
They're like aliens. So,
exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly. Oh, man, it's so awesome having you on. So normally what I do when I start the episode is we just kind of like reminisce a bit about high school. It's called School's Out 80's Comedy Story Time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think back to like high school, can you think of like something funny that happened to you when you were in high school?
Man, you know what? It was my senior year, and I moved from North Carolina all the way up to Stanley Boyd, Wisconsin. I went to a school called Stanley Boyd High School. I lived in the town of Stanley, population 2,000 people.
Oh, wow.
It was at the time it was a farm community, and I moved up there. It was fantastic, but a lot of my friends were dairy farmers, and they were dairy farmer kids. So I went from wearing loose, baggy pants, think of like the hip hop generation, Belle Biv DeVoe. I didn't have long hair at the time, so I was more of like a hip hop kid.
Okay.
I go to this time warp in 1993, but it's to the year 1987. And they're 5 years behind and they're still rolling their blue jeans and they still have like cutoffs or they're wearing, wrestling shoes and wearing AC/DC shirts. I'd never seen so many metalheads in my entire life than when I went to Wisconsin.
So, oh my God, I got to go to Wisconsin.
Dude, you totally need it. Like they still like Stevie Nicks was like, I think they had her on like it was like their national bird or official musician of that high school.
Awesome.
Yeah, they love Stevie Nicks. And they didn't vary from any of it either. So they were talking like Ozzy Osbourne, Kiss. They were still rocking out Kiss in 1987. Yeah. And it was pretty much understood that when I first got into school, I was having a real hard time making friends. But something funny that happened to me was they took me on this thing called snipe hunting. Do you know what snipe? Do you know what snipe hunting is?
Absolutely, man.
Oh, okay. Well.
But there's going to be people listening that won't know what snipe hunting is. So go talk away.
Yeah. So these guys were great. And I had like this cousin through marriage that was there. He's kind of showing me the ropes. He's like, well, his name is Richie. He's like, well, Galvez, I'm going to take you around town and introduce you to some people. And then we're going to go back to my place and we're going to go snipe hunting. I'm like, okay. And I'm not exaggerating the accent. They were very much,
Yeah, man, you got the accent down.
Yeah. Those guys, I lived in it. It was fantastic.
Okay.
And I went out there. He's like, okay, Galvez, we're going to have to do this with a burlap sack. Only way that it works is if you have a burlap sack. He would not be quiet about the burlap sack. So I was like, all right, great. Do I get a flashlight or anything? He's like, no. He's like, we have to do it in complete darkness because otherwise you'll scare them. Like, and I was sitting here trying to figure out what a snipe is. I'm like, what is a snipe? Is it in the rat family? Is it, is it one of those species? He's like, you're going to see. I just, it's tough for me to explain it to you. And I'm like, hook, line, sinker, dead on. I'm ready to go. I'm ready with it. And thank God social media wasn't around at the time, because by the time I caught this snipe, I would not stop. It was like, you would think that you had seen Kill Bill Volume 8, because I was giving it heck. I was like just smashing this bag with that bat. I was like, man, it's like this thing's got to die eventually. And
what did you have? What?
It turned out to be a rock.
Okay.
It was a rock, but the thing that got me was that they had me practice the call to get the snipe in the bag, and it went like this: sneep, 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 sneep. And I was doing this all over a farmer's field in pitch black dark with a burlap sack and a baseball bat. And it was cold. It was November already at this point.
Oh, man. Wow.
I will tell you this. One of the best things that I could have done was do that one simple thing in a town of 2,000 people, because by the time Monday morning came around, I had a bunch of new friends, and I didn't understand why. All of a sudden, it was like the school warmed up to me. They thought I was awesome. They heard I was funny. And I was like, how did you hear that? And then they told me, they're like, we heard you like to go snipe hunting, Galvez. And that was it. Like
and you're in.
Yeah, I was like their entertainment for the rest of the year. And it was great. I had a really good time going to that school. They ended up receiving me very well, and I'm still friends with a lot of them today. So
that's an awesome story, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, because snipe hunting has been around, I gotta believe, since the George Washington days.
It's a great way to keep the kids busy. Like, I wish I would have known about that game, a long time ago. I would have sent my brothers and sisters growing up out to play that game, because they would have been occupied for hours.
So in Missouri, when we used to camp, we would get the first year campers and Boy Scouts, and we'd say, hey, go get the automatic smoke changer. And they would go to one pickup truck, and they'd be like, no, I think Mr. So-and-so brought it. Go to that black pickup truck. No, go over to that white pickup truck. And you'd have these kids looking all over the place for the automatic smoke changer. And
what was the automatic smoke changer?
Yes, and then after they found that, we took them snipe hunting.
But what was it? What was the automatic smoke changer?
There wasn't one. It was just being funny. They didn't know, so you just kind of have fun with them.
You just send them on a rabbit trail, right? Send them
absolutely, absolutely. Man,
I love it. Yeah, those were good.
So
times.
When you're in high school, Danny, in Wisconsin, so you're there. I mean, at some point, the itch has got to be there to start dating. So did you have any blind dates or any crazy things that like occurred that you can share with us?
Actually, you know what? Yeah, I can tell you that this was a very, very weird time too, because one of the things that I didn't like, my father was in the Marine Corps, and we learned how to do all the things that you would expect Marine Corps kids to know how to do. And it's almost like being a Marine, but there's a lot of responsibility with it too. Like, you learn Krav Maga and self-defense, and you learn how to use, inanimate objects to defend yourself if you have to. So like fighting, there was no such thing as a fair fight. So I'm like, well, should I jump into the dating pool? I'm like, I don't really know anybody. I don't know who's who. I don't know who's like, I didn't like the confrontation because I'd probably react really negatively. I had a couple stories though. There was one girl I really liked, and I went to church with her, but I would never tell her that I liked her. And my first official date, I went to Pizza Hut. We had to drive 40 minutes in the snow and cold just to get to someplace decent, because that town only had something called the Renegade.
Right.
And you can imagine what the Renegade served. They served like a lot of fried food. That's where I actually worked. And I definitely didn't want to take this girl there because it's just a little bit classier, and we don't want people talking about it. It's a town of 2,000 people. So I remember one night, like, I made out with her, and it was the weirdest thing I'd ever done. And we got back from Pizza Hut. I ended up making out with her on the concrete, like in the driveway.
Oh man, that could hurt.
She was fine. Like she was great with it. But I was like,
Yeah.
this is like, you think I would at least be in the grass. There's no snakes or anything like that in Wisconsin. It's completely comfortable. It wasn't that cold outside, but I mean, it was cold enough, but it was still like where it was bearable. But I thought about that. And then I remember one night I went to this house party in the country. Different girl. I'd known this girl since I was 13 years old. Mind you, I'm now 17, 18. I moved up there my senior year, and I'd been visiting this girl every summer. I'd see her, and I had a crush on her. Well, I didn't know she had a boyfriend, and he wasn't just like a regular dude. Like I ended up kissing her, making out with her at this party because we were too drunk. And it was just like Bud Light, or like at that time it was cool to drink Bud Light. Nowadays, I don't know. Like I will never touch another Bud Light again. Not against anything. I'm just not a Bud Light person.
Right.
Gives me headaches, got lots of sugar, and it doesn't swing the right way for me. No pun intended. So I go in, I make out with this girl, and a week goes by, and there's a guy in the grocery store parking lot. He's like, "Hey, Galvez." I'm like, I don't know that dude. Who's that dude? And he tells me his name is Quincy. And by the way, if you're ever going to get beat up, you don't want it to be by a guy named Quincy. The guy had quads that were bigger than my head.
Oh, geez.
Swear to you. He was on the wrestling team from the town next door. It turns out that was his girlfriend that I was making out with.
Oh, whoa.
I bluffed him, John. I had to get out of that situation. I had to bluff him. I was like, he's like, Soul. He's like, you like making out with my girlfriend? I was like, actually, yeah, it was pretty good. And I was just being a smart ass with him. So I was a smart aleck with him. And I'm glad that I was, because I was worried. I was like, man, what if two things is going to happen? I was like, number one, I told the truth. So I can go to church on Sunday. I was Catholic at the time. So I was not trying to lie. I was just, let me just be real with this guy. And yeah, let me lay claim to her. I was like, yes, I did make out with her. She's a great kisser. And he did not like that at all. So I kept taunting this dude. Well, his buddy gets out of the car, and he's like, so what are we going to do about it? I'm like, I don't know, man. I just see you talking. You want to take care of it? We can take care of it right now. But I hope that you went to the equivalent of a Marine Corps boot camp, because I'm ready for you. You're going to want to be trained, because by the time I'm done with you, you're going to be worn out. You're going to be sore, if you're even standing. John, I was bluffing my way all the way through. I'm like, man, if this
dude, I love it though, man. I love it.
I mean, I was like, if this dude gets hold of me, I'm in trouble. He can slam me up against a car. It was cold outside too. And the whole time I'm like, but was it worth it? It was like, of course it was. There's always that one. There's always that one. The one heartbeat in the 80s. I was like, totally worth you. Like I would take 8 butt kickings over that. Right. You know,
absolutely. Wow, man. Those are great stories.
Yeah, so that was fun. I had a good time. So my thing around dating was kind of an awkward thing. I ended up just going Dutch. I always had crushes on women that were too tall for me or weren't interested in me. So I had a bad picker. I just didn't mess with it. I didn't mess with it. So I didn't.
No, that's a good story though, and yeah. I love how you intimidated the dude with your intelligence. That's badass.
You know what was crazy, John? And I think you probably realize this too. We don't know how powerful we are, and I was still tapping into like what's my superpower, right? But I learned in that moment that I had a huge knack. I felt like I had actually beat him, that I had defeated him. But I also revealed a magical superpower that I had, and that was, hey, I was able to diffuse a situation that could have been really bad for me. But I also learned that I could make a situation go the way that I wanted it to. And that right there was powerful. That was
hell yeah.
You could take those words, but it's also, you have to be very careful with that. You know, I'm like, I can't wait to mess with that guy. This guy. So almost a year later,
right.
I see him at the mall, 45 minutes away. And he is chasing me through the mall. Like between the racks, I'm dodging and weaving. I'm like I'm playing hide and go seek with this dude. This dude is still mad. It's a year later, and he is still upset that he still wanted to beat me up. So,
oh no!
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh
so, Quincy,
no!
If you're listening, double fingers up to you, my friend. I hope you enjoyed that. So,
no, that's wow, man. That's funny though.
I had a good time. I had a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just never that guy though. It's like I think people they forget there's billions of women on the planet. It's I've had friends that cry over spilt milk or they're like, she broke up with me. I'm like, why are you sad? There's billions more women on the planet. And by the way, just so you know, like the quality of men out there isn't as great as what they thought it was. And you can hear it. The number one problem that people are having is mental, right? I hear from all kinds of women that tell me they're like, man, I just wish he would listen to me, right? If he would just be nice to me, right? If he would stop drinking, if he'd stop playing games, I don't
sure.
know what it is, but apparently men in their 40s have turned into 12-year-old boys. And so that's where the opportunity is. If you're a man and you can hold a job in your 40s and you don't play video games or you have a good balance between your activities and your socialization, you have a really good chance at landing a wife or at least a good girlfriend.
Absolutely. And if you're good in sales, there's no reason why you can't land multiple
That's
introductions.
so count your blessings tonight, John. You're gonna have to tell the missus like, babe, I'm really, really grateful for you. So happy.
Yeah, it's a weird deal because like I'm of that age where like a lot of my friends, I think I'm an analytical guy, Danny.
Mhm.
So like I'm like, what's the over under? If I think about like our 15 couple of friends, what's the over under on this couple, that couple, that couple?
Yeah.
What do I think? Do I think they're going to go 3 more years, 5 more years, 6 years? Is this the last year for them? So far, I've been completely wrong, but I am like running the odds, kind of like the death pool thing.
The death pool, yeah. It's funny because I met a lot of people and they get liberated at different times. Me, I was just hitting my 40s, I think. I was 44, 43, 44.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, I'm 47 right now, almost 48. So I've
nice,
been in liberation station. Like, I think people they go through divorce, but they want to maintain that title. And it's like you get divorced the day that you get divorced, and then it's finished.
right.
It shouldn't be a marital status, but I've met people. It's like, how long have you been divorced? 9 years. I'm like, oh, you okay? Get over it. Like you should have been over that. Like the day after it was done. Like you should. I'm not saying the day after, but like once it's done, it's stamped, divorced. Bam, I'm done.
Right.
So you're not going to be in the process of divorcing. So I changed the term to liberated, and
Okay, I like it.
my ex-wife did not like that. She did not appreciate that much. And I was like, hey, I said, now that we're liberated, I was like, aren't you glad you don't have to like, text me or, smell my feet or whatever? And she did not think that was funny. I was just trying to squeeze in that term though, instead of divorce. And the other thing too, I remember this is one thing. If you ever want to get back at your ex that you've been married to,
Yes.
no matter what you put them through, wait for a good year. And then whatever transpires, show up in complete peace at their house. And you want to approach them and say, I have something really important to tell you. And I want you to put on the most vulnerable face that you can. You look at them and you say, I just want to say thank you. And they're going to say, for what? I want to thank you. And all of those things that you told me when we were married, you were absolutely right. I wish I would have listened to you. And then you
What?
leave. And then you
What?
leave. And then you go. That's it.
Oh no. Oh no, that is funny.
And this is why I'm going to hell, John. And this is also why
Oh, Danny. Oh, I got a story to parlay off that. So I dated this gal back in the day, years ago, and she graduated from SMU, and when she graduated, she didn't have anywhere to live, and I had an apartment at the time, and so she was like using my apartment as her interview thing. So like she actually lived in Denton with her parents, but she was using my apartment as like her ability to like interview, come home, eat, whatever. We were dating, so but it was just funny to me. But she was so like nitpicky on me, like all the time, like constantly finding stuff wrong that I did. And the funniest thing that happened to me was after we had broken up, I was living in the Village in Dallas. You know where that is, right off of Central and Lovers.
Yep.
Back in the day. So I was in that Tom Thumb over there that everybody that lived in the Village grocery shopped at, and by God, she was in there with her new boyfriend, and and she was saying the same crap to him as she used to say to me, like verbatim. I mean, verbatim. And I was sitting there, I was sitting there going through Tom Thumb, and I just got a big smile on my face. And man, I'm like, God, dodged a bullet there, baby.
I know, and that's a great thing too. And it's like, you want to be armed for those situations because sometimes they're weird. In my case, like I had to keep seeing this. So like I come up with like new one-liners every time where it's like,
right,
let's see, what can I do to get under her skin but not harm or cut her skin?
yes,
And I remember early on, I was like, you know what? I just want you to know that your new husband did me a favor. I've been able to travel more now than I ever had when we were married.
right.
I'm happy. Like I lost weight. I'm like 30, 40 pounds lighter. I'm attracting all kinds of beautiful people into my life. It's amazing. So like I come up with stuff like that. Just not because I'm bitter, right? But it's fun. Like I have a good time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like a cat playing with a ball of yarn. You're like, meow.
Yes.
I still got I'm paying you child support. It's good. Like, I have a good sense of humor about it. But I think she hates it sometimes because like she knows like the whole relationship thing is funny to me.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's comical. And it's funny when to take it back to your point, it's like, hey, we're taking bets on which one of our friends is going to last and how long they're going to last. And
yeah, it's kind of sad that I do that. It's just I'm so analytical like that. When I see people in a grocery store, I'm like, what do I think they're doing for what do I think they do for a living? I'm just always trying to I've always been that way. Like like it's crazy. Like I just need to turn on some heavy metal music and quit looking at people.
So how do you manage that then? Like, how do you keep from tearing people apart? Obviously, like you said, you met your match and the one girlfriend and you're like, phew, thank God I dodged a bullet. But I mean, I know critical and analytical are very different, but you got to.
Yeah. I started, I mean, literally how I found my wife. I had a list of all these things I wanted out of life. I was in my early 20s. I mean, you hear this stuff all the time from people, but I literally did. I wrote this list of all these things that I wanted. And I kid you not, Danny, one of the things I had on my list was I want to join a co-ed sand volleyball team. Because like I was a single guy living in the village. I was from Missouri. Everybody's from Texas. I didn't know anybody. I'm like, I want to meet women. I also joined a whole bunch of singles groups. Like I had joined like multiple singles groups, many of which I wasn't even religiously aligned with, but I was there.
I don't know. Hey, listen, some religions are like, you know what? I'd go Mormon for a week. I mean, I'm just saying,
One girl I dated, it was her first night at this Bible study. It was like my third night at the Bible study. We dated for like 3 months.
Oh, wow. I dated a Pentecostal. You're talking about high school, and I dated a Pentecostal girl one time.
Yeah.
Darla was her name. And
okay.
Yeah, Darla was blue eyes, blonde hair.
Well,
I mean, I was in Wisconsin too, so I mean, you don't get your pick of Latinas or anything like that.
I wouldn't think they'd had Pentecostals in Wisconsin.
Yes, they did. I thought she was Catholic, but beautiful, and just a kind spirit too.
Right.
Her brothers were all wrestlers, and they were all bad boys too. Like they had reputations. They were hell raisers. They liked to go drinking. They would fight and they would drink, but they would really love me. And I remember I wanted to go on a ski trip, and I had to go ask permission from her mom and dad for her to be able to wear pants for the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they wore dresses and put their hair in buns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
Interesting.
One of the weirdest engagements I'd ever had. I totally forgot about Darla. See?
Man, that's what's so cool about doing a podcast and getting somebody that's I know some of the stuff I'm thinking about, like I hadn't thought about that. But anyway, so the second thing on my list was I wanted to meet a woman that I could fall in love with, marry, what have you. All my friends are starting to do it too. And but I had like certain qualities, like they had to have good eyes, a nice smile. And this is something nobody else would have on their list, but I also had that they had to know all 4 Beatles by their first and their last name, because if they did, then I would feel like we were musically aligned, like they'd be just into music. And my wife did, like she knows all 4 Beatles' first and last names. Now, I, of course, know the other 2 Beatles, which that's because I'm a geek about it. But
you went digging.
What's that?
I said you went digging for the information.
Well, no, I'm an avid reader. And so like early on, I just read a ton of books early in adulthood and, whatever. I just get bored and I just read books and biographies and stuff. So I read all about like Stu Sutcliffe, who was the original bass player for the Beatles. And then I read about who couldn't play bass at all, by the way. And then the original drummer for the Beatles, which is wild. Like they had that guy forever in their band. And then as soon as they got their record contract, Brian Epstein is like, get rid of that guy and get Ringo Starr. And boom. So they cut that guy and got Ringo Starr. I'm trying to think of the name of that dude, but that poor guy, they've even had him in a movie called Rockstar where, I think it's called Rockstar. It's one where this guy was getting ready to go get a record deal, and he was a drummer, and they were going to do really well or whatever. He's the character from The Office, and right as they get the deal, they go with a different drummer and kick him out of the band. So they all get a record contract, become world famous, and he's like destitute, living in his sister's basement. And then they had a picture of and then like and not a lot of people know this, but I did. Like during the movie, they had a guy with his head in his hands or whatever, and he walks by him, and it's literally the original drummer for the Beatles.
That's amazing. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was it. Rainn Wilson? Was it Rainn Wilson in that movie?
Maybe.
Or was
that sounds right? Let me. I got Pete Best. I think it was Pete.
Okay.
Pete Best was the original drummer for the Beatles. But yeah, that was one of my requirements. They had to know music, and I thought, well, and I got really specific. I was reading like "See You at the Top" by Zig Ziglar, and he was saying like, make a list of what you want out of life, make it really specific. And I'm like, I had no guardrails, so I made everything like super specific. I want to have a 2-story brick house. I want to have this. I want to have that. Blah 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 blah. But then when I met my wife, this is wild. She gave me her business card. She worked at AT&T. No, it was Southwestern Bell Mobile that became AT&T. She handed me her business card, and she's like, call me. We're looking for guys for our co-ed volleyball team. And I was like, oh my God, you're kidding me.
John, did you get that feeling that there was something about her when you first met her?
Kind of. I mean, it was just, I was kind of more like taking in the whole thing because there were multiple girls. My wife was just one of them that was at this event that we were at. And I really liked her. I really liked like her voice, like how she talked. Mm-hmm. Like I just felt like it was really sexy the way she talked. Yeah. I mean, it was wild. Like, that's what I picked up on though. But I was really like into like, but what was wild too is when we met all these girls. One of the girls that was there, because we met at the SMU parking lot. We were going to go to a football game, all of us in Waco. Was it in Waco? Yeah, it was Waco. Long ways to go to watch a football game. And when we were there, one of her friends that she worked with at the time at Southwestern Bell Mobile Systems, her name was Susan. I dated her when I was in college.
Oh.
One of her friends, and she came walking, and she's like, John, and I'm like, couldn't recognize her, man. Couldn't recognize her at all. Had no idea who the heck she was. I felt bad. I was like, hey, how's it going? No idea. I did a little bit of drinking when I was in school, so if I didn't know who somebody was, I got it honestly.
That's amazing, John. See, I had to keep track of everybody because like, I'd be the dude that they would come to be like, hey, I'm pregnant. I'd be like, well, I don't believe you. So go ahead and have the baby. Well, I'm going to have an abortion. I'm like, no, have the baby. I'll raise the baby for 18 years. I'd rather see. Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see if you're really pregnant. And I know like, maybe I'm just rambunctious, but you know what I mean? Like I'm like, okay, I'm calling your bluff. If you're pregnant, have the baby. I'll pay you child support. You know what? I'll just raise the baby. You can go on and live your life. And then,
That's awesome though. That's like so much better than a lot of guys will do. Like,
oh
see
yeah.
ya.
I was like, no, I got plenty of people in my family. I got sisters and brothers, like they can take care of the baby or help me. Like what like there's not
Yeah,
gonna be any limits.
that's
Like
awesome, Danny.
if I have a baby coming and it's even slightly like me, cool. That could be a good thing or not a great thing. But like either way I win, right?
Right, right. Sure, sure.
John,
Well,
do you
there's
have
a lot of what's
yeah.
that, Danny?
Oh no, go ahead.
I said, there's a lot of life yet to live. So, I mean, I'm sure you're going to meet that special someone, and hopefully their kids are all raised.
Yeah, you know what? I was, it's funny you said that too, because like when I went back into dating and stuff, I'm like, you talk about manifestation and like being very specific. And it's
Yeah,
funny, that stuff is real. And you're absolutely right and Ryan Stewman said that too. Like you got to
yeah,
get real specific about it because if you're very general, like here's my general view. I was like, I want a Latina, big booty, big bust, beautiful, long black hair. And guess what? She showed up. She liked to dance. She had kids about the same age, got along. She was healthy. She didn't
yeah.
drink. But I missed a few things, a few important things, John.
Okay, what was that, Danny?
Well, part of it, um, did not have the same sense of humor as I did.
Oh, okay,
She was
yeah,
highly critical. So going like the nitpicking, right? Like expected perfection. Um,
yeah,
she she didn't listen either because when I met her, I was like, hey, you know what? Because they always tell you they're like, well, I never imagined I'd date a guy with long hair. I'm like, well, then you probably shouldn't date the guy with long hair. Like I'm being your friend here. I'm trying to do you a solid and save you from
yeah.
tearing away a piece of your soul before you get married. I'm not your dude. And it didn't matter. She's like, nope, I'm coming for you. I'm like, okay, if you come for me, then I'm gonna come for you too. So
Right.
here we go. And it ends in like heartbreak and tears and then
Uh,
gaslighting. It's like, I just want to call you and let you know that I forgive you for the hurt that you caused me. It's like, hold well, I wasn't asking for you to forgive me. Like the relationship was over. Like
right. Sure.
I told you I don't want to see you anymore. It's not gonna work out. You go back to where you live. I'm gonna stay here. Happily ever after. It's
There
in
you go.
the children thing is kind of a weird thing. It's like when you're in your mid 40s, you got to really think it's like everybody thinks it's awesome until you're looking at a 5-year-old or 6-year-old and it's like, hey man, like we barely know each other. I think we need to get to know each other more. And it's a weird dynamic because I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was already out of the Chuck E. Cheese stage. Don't get me wrong, I love Chuck E. Cheese. I love Chuck E. Cheese as a grandfather to a 4-year-old, which is true. I got a 4-year-old grandson.
Oh,
I'm
no, no, no way. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I'm on to grandkids. The reason why I got a hard headed child. He's 24. 4 years ago, he's like, Dad, I'm going to North Dakota. I'm like, whatever you do not have sex with the girls there. He goes, why, Dad? I was like, just don't have sex with the girls there. He calls me 3 months on the mark. He's like, hey, Dad. I was like, hey, what's up? He's like, so you're probably gonna be mad, but I got somebody pregnant. I'm like, what did I tell you 3 months
Oh
ago?
my gosh.
He
Wow.
goes, don't have sex with the girls in North Dakota. I'm like, and get them pregnant.
It's so simple. Why don't they listen?
I don't know. And it's like I don't have hard rules. I'm a pretty
Yeah,
reasonable guy. It's like it's like I get it if you're gonna be stubborn, you're gonna do your own thing. But now you
right.
get independence. You're your own man now. You show dad. So
That's funny, man.
but
So you got
I'm
a
excited.
4-year-old grandson. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm actually going to visit him this next week. I'm flying to Minneapolis and I'm
Okay.
really I'm it's funny. Like I met him in person when he was a baby, and then he came
Yeah,
down back in March.
right.
And I look at my life differently and I look at dating differently. And that goes back to my point earlier. It's like you
Sure.
really got to think about what you're doing in this world because you're going to leave your mark, and Ancestry and 23andme.com are not going to let you forget it. They're not going to let the world forget it because your kids and your descendants are going to show up for you. So, um,
Man, that is 100% true.
I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I've met people they couldn't find their dads for years, and then they got to meet them. But I was looking at my grandson, and
Yeah.
that age, he was like 3 years old, 3.5 years old, and he looks exactly like his dad. It's like I stepped into time.
Oh, wow.
Man, you know what? I get to be a better dad version to my grandson that I wasn't to my son. And nowadays, I have fun with my son, my 24-year-old. I'm excited to go see him. He's funny. He's hilarious.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All the dysfunctional part of stuff where you don't get to see your dad a lot. We had a lot of that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But he's used it and he's become more family oriented and he's become so hilarious. He used humor and friendships to
Oh, man. That's awesome, Danny.
Yeah. So it makes me proud. It makes me happy. But
hell yeah.
I think I'm at that age and it must be maturity, John.
Yeah.
We don't want to say we're getting old, but we have to admit that we're getting mature. I look back and go, man, I sure did have fun as a dad in my 30s to toddlers. I'm going to have a blast in my 50s, even in my 40s.
Right.
Because I'm still 40 in my 40s to a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old. We're going to have a blast.
Absolutely.
So my mission's changed a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I look at adventure differently. I look at family dynamics. I look at things a lot more responsibly. I can't just be out there swiping left and right on my life.
Right. No, that's huge. Hey, I wanted to ask you something. So, so back in the day, in your possible partying days, so tell me any situations where maybe you had like a passed out friend that you guys had to help.
Oh, you know what? I actually was that passed out friend. And yeah,
me too.
Actually, a couple times. So I can't say what they wrote on my face, but they used a Sharpie marker.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
They had so many different names written on my face. I mean, it was pretty graphic. But there was a time when I was in college and I was dating the most beautiful woman I'd ever dated.
Right.
Up to that point. And she still today, like, I know most guys are never going to tell you, especially if they're married, but they have a top 3 list of the most beautiful women they've ever been with. You could either be on it or not be on it, but chances are you're going to be on it because, you had children. But if I were to have, just aesthetically and just in spirit, I would have to say this is probably one of the most beautiful women I ever dated. And I messed it up. But I remember one night I went to a sorority dance with her. She was in a sorority. I was not. I wasn't that guy. She came from a very well-to-do family. I did not. I was paying my own bills, but I got so drunk at this party because I felt insecure. I made it of myself, and I was going in and talking smack to all the guys wearing polos, being like, "Oh yeah, you think you're cool? That's all cool, or whatever." And it's like winter, and we drove there. Like, I end up getting so drunk, I'm getting everybody in a tizzy, waking everybody up. There's a couple that takes me back to my dorm, and I go and I crash out in my room, and I just slept it off. I probably slept for the next day or two. But the thing that I liked about that, like, she actually ended up coming to find me, and she laid down right next to me and went to bed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was probably like 30, 40 minutes later. It was really awesome, but I was blitzed out of my mind. I had alcohol poisoning.
No way. You had alcohol poisoning?
Oh yeah, a few times in my life. That's why, like, I stopped drinking. I can't, like, my body.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't designed for that.
Wow.
So
wow.
I'm surprised I'm alive. So
wow.
Wow. It's been amazing. So
I kind of feel the same way. Hey, okay, so I got a story. Because you're talking about a sorority thing. So I was at a sorority, multiple girls lived in this sorority apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all there. It was during the summer. So we were all there to just have a party or whatever. And I thought it would be funny, since I barely knew these people, to not use my own name.
Okay.
And so every time I introduce myself to people be like, "Who's this?" And I'd be, "Hey, nice to meet you. My name's Sam." And so, like, I was Sam the entire night, and we were playing drinking games and everything. And it worked great until the next morning when I'd passed out on their couch, and they're like slapping my face back and forth. "Sam, wake up, Sam, wake up." And I'm like, why are these girls calling me Sam? Like, I had no idea why they're calling me.
That's amazing. Did they ever find out?
Like, I made it up, and then I forgot about
it? That's amazing.
it. I know. I know.
Amazing.
I like made the whole thing up. I was like kind of in the moment or whatever. And I don't know why my friends didn't call me out on it. Like why my friends didn't say, hey, his name's John or whatever. But my friends just kind of went along with it. They're all into just trying to like hook up with a girl anyway. So they didn't care that I was telling everybody my name was Sam. They're just, you know, everybody had their own game they were playing. And mine kind of surprised me. I was like, they were shaking me. Come on, Sam. Like they were convinced my name was Sam.
It's amazing. Yeah. You know, the crazy thing is you can try that, but it doesn't hide your DNA now, you know? So if you're registered, that's it. They got you. They will find you.
Well, and I think I was doing like you were talking about, a cat in a string. I mean, I wasn't trying to like, you know, be incognito. I was just kind of trying to have fun.
Yeah. Just have a good time.
Yeah.
Did you ever use accents?
Oh yeah. Like, yeah, my wife and I are like really good at doing an English accent. So one time we were shooting pool in a pool hall. The entire time we wouldn't break character. And the gal that was waiting on us getting our drinks, she kept on commenting how she loved our accent. I kid you not.
So is it the Queen's English that you use?
I don't know. I probably did more of a Liverpoolian just because I'm such a Beatles fan. But my wife say she does. She used to. She doesn't as much as she used to, but she used to do community theater.
Okay.
And me, like you're into voiceover. I'm like a wannabe voiceover person.
Yeah.
And so like I love imitating other people. Like as a kid, I was always imitating other people and I always wanted to learn the English accent. And so I just like my wife started doing it one night in this bar while we were shooting pool. And I'm like, okay, I'll go with it. And so the whole time we're speaking back and forth to each other. And I think I was in a lower class dialect and she was in an upper class dialect. So I was definitely playing out of my league that night.
That's great. I love it. I know you, and you learn that like there's somebody. I have a few friends that are English, and
yeah,
Samuel Smith. I'm like, hello, Sam, and I don't know what it is. I got it in my head that it's okay to just approach people with English accents and address them in the English accent, even though it's not appropriate. Like he used to tell me, he's like, you know, Danny, you're the only one I allowed you to do that to me. Like he's like, it's very proper. Takes himself very serious.
Yes, and that's like an upper class accent, the one you're doing.
Yeah, it's like the Queen's English. And then I've got another friend,
yeah.
Suki. Hello, my name is Suki. She's an Indian woman.
Okay.
And she's from England, but she lives in Canada. And she's Punjabi Indian, so very traditional, right?
Okay,
but
okay.
She loves it. She loves the attention. She goes, "Oh, I love you, Danny." Yeah, but it's very high class, right? They're very. It's not. It's not like a accent. It's not like, "Oh, what are you doing here, John?" Yeah, it's not. It's nothing like that. I don't know those accents very well, but I have to be careful because my accents aren't great. They're just like
right. I know.
They're trash.
It's like singing in the shower. It always sounds better in your own ear. You're
like, dude, this song sounded really good before I got on the karaoke mic. So
yeah, exactly.
I love it.
That's funny, man.
So you know, we're talking about voices. Like,
yeah,
tell me about some of your favorite standout voices of all time.
Oh, well, when I was a kid, it was John Wayne.
Okay.
Like I think John Wayne has a really distinctive voice. Sylvester Stallone really has a distinctive voice. Any of those like big character actors had really distinctive voices. But like for me, like I used to imitate Rich Little.
Oh yeah, do Rich Little.
Like I can do Rich Little.
Okay, do Rich Little.
All right, let me try. Hold on. Hello, my name's Rich Little. Welcome to my HBO special. It's called Rich Little and His Funniest Faces.
I like Rich Little. I forgot about him until you just mentioned him.
I know, dude. I know. And then I tried to do John Wayne. I could never do John Wayne. I just didn't smoke enough cigarettes to do John Wayne properly.
John Wayne. He's got that deep, grovelly, like he's real direct.
Yeah, little kid's not going to be able to do it. Well, you little fella.
Oh yeah,
You know,
filthy
so
animal,
let's go
right?
ahead and get on that horseback and let's get to the cavalry as soon as I can't do it.
No, I bet you could though. That's pretty good. How about Rambo? Let's hear Sylvester Stallone.
I don't think I could do. I'll tell you who I can do though. The guy from It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
I'm gonna,
Jimmy Stewart.
yeah, Jimmy Stewart. I just want to get a great big bag and I want to travel the world.
So interesting story. My grandfather,
Yes,
Wisconsin, has a picture of him, and it's a famous cigar ad, a pipe tobacco ad.
right.
It's of the World War II fighters, but Jimmy Stewart was his bunkmate. They were in the same squadron. And
Wow.
They still have a picture. Yeah. So when Jimmy Stewart was in the military, my grandfather served with him in the Air Corps. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Danny, during your lifetime, any famous people you've met?
Oh, you know what? That's a great question. So growing up, I'm trying to think. So I met Billy Ray Cyrus. Don't tell my heart, make you break your heart. I met him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
That was probably one of the first ones that I met that I can recall that was famous. And then moving into, I didn't really meet a lot of famous people because I didn't live in a place where famous people would show up until I went to Minneapolis. And that's where I met Lisa Loeb. Do you remember Lisa Loeb? Kiss me. Da, 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 da.
The name sounds super familiar.
Yeah, she had a hit back in the 90s. Oh, kiss me. I can't sing her song very well.
Okay.
She was big in the 90s. She had little black frame glasses and brunette. She was real cute. I met her, and then I met Jodie Watley. I met Justin Timberlake.
Oh, no way. When did you meet Justin Timberlake?
That was like 1999 Star Party, 1998 or 1999 in Minneapolis. And he was there with the rest of NSYNC. So it was kind of like, hey, what's up, y'all? And they're like, hey. But Justin Timberlake came out by himself. He was real quiet, a little bit taller, too. He was like 6'1", 6'2", if I remember.
Okay.
I was short. You know what? I think Justin Timberlake was the only one in terms of like presence. Like he was real calm. He was calm and unassuming. Like, so whoever you see him as funny as he is, that's true to who his spirit is, because he's very down to earth and very laid back. So a lot of the people that he depicts in his like life and stuff like that on social media and on movies, that's very true to who he is. Like his spirit was like that.
Oh wow.
Miranda Lambert was a little bit different. She kind of had a chip on her shoulder, but her mom and dad are great. And the reason why she had the chip is because she signed with Sony. The other thing too is that Carrie Underwood was mopping the floor on the music charts, and Miranda is super talented, extremely talented.
Yes.
She can write her booty off. I mean, and she can sing. Oh my God.
Right.
In person, when you're sitting there, you're like, I'm just going to melt into you, because you can just, she does that. She's got that. She's just had a kind, sweet spirit. When Sony came in, though, they had her on a mission. So she had to they had her standing up straight. She's like marching to the beat of a different drum.
Right. Sure.
I've got an autographed CD from her.
Man, that is so cool.
It is cool. Like I spent my time, 2004 to 2009, and that's around the time like I met her. And I know there's a lot of other people that I'm missing that I met.
It seems strange, right? When you meet these famous people that you've seen on TV and you're there, it's almost like an out of body thing. You're like, am I really here? Like I know they're famous. Like I have seen them and they're just like right there. It just seems so strange when it's happening to you. That happened to me like in downtown Dallas with Vinnie Paul from Pantera.
Yeah.
Like he was just standing right there in front of me. And I was in the bar and I couldn't think of anything to do but just yell, Vinnie Paul, raise my hand up and get a high five. That's all I could think to do. I had nothing. I had nothing else. And then I tried to get a picture with them, and the guys at Trees were being jerks and they wouldn't let me get a pic with Vinnie Paul. I'm like, you bastards.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's a fine line between that, and people are like, there are no secrets nowadays. You can't hide.
Yeah.
And I see that even working with somebody like Ryan Stewman, and it's like, he'll be the first to tell you, he's like, I'm not famous. He goes, people know me, but like, I'm not as famous as other people. But when was the last time you went to a live concert? Who was it?
Well, it was Friday night this past weekend.
John, you get out more than I do. Who was the band?
Okay, so my buddy Paul, who taught my boys how to play drums and guitar,
Yeah.
he's and he's studying to be a school teacher. He plays in two bands. One is called Mean Street, which is a classic Van Halen band.
Okay.
And the other one is called Back in Black, which is a classic AC/DC band. Both bands are amazing. We saw them down at House of Blues last Friday. They were phenomenal. Oh my God, I had so much fun. My buddy Jet was the lead singer of the Mean Street band, and he gets up there and he looks more like David Lee Roth than David Lee Roth. He sings better than David Lee Roth. I mean, the whole thing was just, I hate to say it because I'm a huge Van Halen fan.
Yeah.
But I've seen Van Halen, the real Van Halen, 3 times in concert. And I got to admit, all 3 times I was disappointed.
That's amazing.
Not with Eddie, and not with the drumming, and not with the bass playing. It was always David Lee Roth. And I love David Lee Roth. He's like my drunk uncle. What?
Is that why he's your drunkle?
Yeah, he's my drunkle. But man, he doesn't have pipes. Like, he's great when you get him in the studio and they can capture that magic on back in the day on acetate, and then they threw it on the records or whatever. Yeah. But they had to, like, he wasn't like he's not a vocalist. Okay. Like you think of a vocalist. And he smoked cigarettes since he was 13 years old and hasn't stopped. Oh, and wow. It's deteriorated his voice.
Yeah, that will. Like, cigarettes will always get you drinking too. Same thing. I mean,
yeah, he's a big whiskey drinker too, I think. This is the time in the show where we get to promote. So I know you are prolific in all the entrepreneurial things that you're involved in.
Yes.
So I want to give you this time to, promote to my audience. And this will go out to my LinkedIn group, my Facebook group. So we'll be promoting this, but go ahead and share everybody's schools out, like everything you're involved in that you want to promote.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm like, John and I met each other because we're in a group called Apex, and Apex is a personal evolution program. Some people call it a cult. It's not a cult. If you're looking for people that are clear-minded, focused, they're interested in building lives and businesses and helping other people get there as well too. It's one of the most engaged and connected networking groups that you could be in. I started in there 2 years before I even started officially working there. That's how much I loved it. And I started there before it became Apex. So we work with a lot of entrepreneurs. We work with a lot of solopreneurs. We work with a lot of executives and professionals. They're working in corporate and they're possibly thinking about making a jump, or they're just trying to become better human beings or better leaders in the spaces that they're at. So they're thinking about retirement, right? So there's guys like you, John, that have been in the game for a while, and you're like, you know what, I think I'm going to do something later in 10 years or 5 years, right? Or start that business. So if you want to connect, you can always reach out to me, Danny Galvez 2 on Instagram. And then you can also reach me at Danny Galvez on Facebook. So just make sure you send me a DM or a message to let me know. Say, hey, I heard you on John's show. Cool. I'll accept the request. I've got about 5,000 people on my Facebook page. The other thing I do is I help people launch their podcast, and I produce audiobooks. So anything and everything you need to know, let me know. I've got videos, I've got training, I got an ebook I can send you. Whatever it is that you want to know about starting your podcast from A to Z, I'll be happy to help you with that. So I appreciate that, John.
Oh, absolutely, Danny. I'll go ahead and promote what I do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because you told me a little bit of what you do, but I feel like there's a lot more than just what you do.
Well, so what I do is I'm a motivational speaker, and I am a sales trainer, but I don't coach anybody. I really don't have time to coach anybody. So what I do instead is I wrote a book. It's out on Amazon. It's called Sales Warrior.
Okay.
And then I have a course that I created that's a 3-day boot camp that's 30 hours of inspiration, instruction, audio, and video. Oh, wow. And I just really designed it so that, to kick people in the butt every morning on a Monday morning as they're trying to get motivated, they can listen to my boot camp for 30 minutes and get their butt in gear and do, what they need to do, like call the leads, send the emails, do the proposals, do the stuff that I've been doing for 34 years. And so I made it that way so that, like, instead of focused on the sale that you missed on Friday, let's focus on making you a better salesperson on Monday. So that's kind of how I designed it. And really, I designed it too because I felt like most of the people out there teaching people how to sell are not successful salespeople. So that's why I did it. Because, like, I sold a bunch of stuff this week. I sold a bunch of stuff last week. I'll sell a bunch of stuff the next week. I just sell a lot of stuff. And but many people that teach selling are no longer selling for whatever reason. And I personally couldn't take that pay cut, but it's intriguing to me. And so I wanted to have something out there that, like, I call it real world sales wisdom.
Yeah.
Since I'm in the real world and been doing it for over 30 years, I just feel like there's so much stuff, and I'm constantly learning even new stuff from other people that I'm just kind of adding to what I'm sharing. But my stuff's ridiculously cheap. So my course, which should be like $500, when I first launched it was $500, but I do it for $99. And my book is only like $9.99. And then what I do to keep people enthralled is, like, I send them monthly like 30 minutes clips of me being inspirational to continue to kick them in the butt. So once they go through my 3-day boot camp, I want to continue to kick them in the butt and do it again and again and again. Because like, sales isn't hard. It's the hard, easy job. Like I think about that all the time. Like, as I'm looking at what I'm going to do that day, I think, okay, what are the 3 hard things that I can do today that'll make my job easy and make some money? And that's kind of how I get myself motivated. The other way I get myself motivated is I'm playing a game.
Yeah.
Like I always tell my people that work for me, I'm like, this is a game. Like, my manager's always like, oh, we got to work really hard. I want to see you guys, like, make a ton of phone calls, send a bunch of emails, blah, 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 blah. And I take it the other direction. I'm like, man, how was your weekend? You know, like, I want my people, like, happy, go lucky. I want, when my clients talk to them or when we're talking to new clients, I want it to sound like we're having a party and they need to join.
That's a good way to do it too. And, you know, I think that's the essence of it too, because sales isn't really sales anymore. People need a chance to get to know you, like you, and trust you. Because if you don't make them feel good, they think about that, right? And Zig Ziglar, that goes back to his line,
Yeah.
You know the line, right? People will remember how you make them feel, right? They always do.
Yeah.
So
what I really liked about Ryan's stuff, because I'm kind of a sales critique too after been doing it for so long, but what I really liked about his stuff as I was watching it the other day was he talked about, like, sales isn't like when somebody buys something, it's not one decision, it's a bunch of little decisions. And I believe that, like, my whole life. Like, it's a bunch of minor decisions that people make, but the first one they make is, do I like that person?
Yeah.
And if the answer to that is no, and I teach this, then the person you're talking to trying to sell something, they are going to go buy a product, maybe not as good as yours, but they're going to buy a product that does what your product does. They might pay more for it, and it might be inferior to your product, but if they don't like you, they will not buy from you. I'm a firm believer in that.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and, you know, it doesn't matter how many times you follow up with them. I mean, there is something called harassment. So I always tell people straight up, it's like, how you buy is how you sell, and vice versa, right? So
Absolutely.
you know, you come in
And the
hot,
more confident people are easier to sell to.
they really are.
Yeah.
And it's just educational. It's like, hey, look, this is my favorite cup. I love it because it says Gulf Shores. It keeps my coffee really warm, right? I'm not saying buy the cup, but I'm just selling the benefits. Like, hey, this is the result.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, you know,
that's something else I teach. And I think it's just like, so most salespeople are always talking about their product. Like, they're so scared they're not going to sell that they got to immediately tell you what it is they're selling. Like it's almost like the kid knocking on your door and he's trying to sell some candy bars. And he's knocking on your doors and he's like, I'm selling candy bars for my school and they're $2 a candy bar. When in actuality, you say, I'm selling I have world famous Belgium chocolate with nuts. The people across the street just got a couple boxes. These things are amazing. Would you like to talk about it?
My course should be $400. If you get it today, $99. and included my book for free. Once purchased, you'll get free monthly inspiration from me. Just go to saleswarriorinspire.com and order yours today. That's it. Back to the show.
Man, that was a great time today, Danny. I mean, wow. Your stories are amazing, funny, always, wow. Thank you so much for coming on. Anything else you want to share, at the top of your head?
You know what? All I would say is keep moving.
Yeah,
keep
agree.
going. Don't quit. Stay close to your family, your friends. Stay connected. If you're doing something you don't like, do something different. It's never too late. There's no excuses.
Right.
I mean, and I don't care if you're 55 and you're like, I'm done with my career. Good. Be done with it. Go do something else. Because you can be a lot happier, a lot faster. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't. There's no qualifier. You are the authority in your life. So if you want to do something, put your mind to it and go get to work.
Absolutely. The only limit is on yourself, right?
That's it. That's it.
Awesome.
So, I appreciate you having me on today, John.
Oh, yeah. Really man, it's been a blast, Danny. I could talk to you forever. So I'm going to wrap this episode. So from Dallas, Texas, I'm John, Sales Warrior. And from Houston, Texas,
I'm Danny Galvez.
Cheers, everybody.